mission is to serve the story. The mission is to serve the story. Hey there, brave hearts, urbanites, and Coach Mad Hatters, and welcome to my infamous Valentine's Day special. And I said it precisely like that, full of sarcasm and sassiness, for the absence of proper research and development. So I arrived today to service the story. And not more so to tell you a story or give you historical backdrop regarding Valentine's Day, but to once again invite you to contemplate. Most of the narratives that our society, meaning the American society, specifically the urban American society, has been designed by two leading narratives, the Greek narrative or the Roman narrative. Any historical value is either stuffed in one of those two narrating paradigms. Very rarely, when I go to research something, am I allotted anything pre-Roman or Greek narrative. Quite odd. Well, sort of kind of quite odd. Because as I just mentioned, the entire societal fabric has been built from the origins of the Greek narrative or the Roman narrative. And that's not to take away from what has been put forth as their truth. That's their truth. And this is not, what can I say, personal opinion. It's in conjunction with my personal opinion, but it's merely out of critical analysis and observation. As well as for the love of story, the philosophy of narratives from its state of origin. There is no myth with this. Stories are powerful. Narratives contour societies. It's often said inside the world of story that the strength of the culture's story is the strength of the culture. Those that have the power of pen are the ones that are able to ebb and flow the consciousness of its people. Story literally has the power to make or break perception. Perception fuels belief. Belief fuels actions and speech, either forward or backwards, or to the side or round and round, leaning more to one side or the other, all depending on who's telling the story. And it still leaves me quite baffled at the resources that's provided to the forefront when one goes to research or develop something. All of the narratives, all of the historical accounts of certain events or seasonal partake, cultural consumption is not made readily available. You have to be privileged, for more or less, to tap into the narratives that were pre-Greek and Roman. Even as far as mythology, to find those non-tainted narratives, the ancient narratives, the narratives about what was in existence prior to the Romans getting their hands on everything. Why? Because those that shape society knows that it is as strong as the narrative that is put forth. You are only as strong as the knowledge, only that which you know or presume to know. Because honestly, without original data, without having the privilege to analyze and observe original data, then we honestly live and evolve through word of mouth, from what someone else said to someone else said to someone else said. Even if you're reading it in a book, it is the impression of one's perception, beliefs, etc., etc. So how would one get its hands on original data? That's pretty much unheard of right now in this oxymoronish era of information. It's not the era of authentic, original information. And how often do we critically analyze where the story is originating from? And I often say, one people's hero is another people's villain. One people's God is another people's devil. It all depends on who's telling the story. And this society was built to celebrate its heroes, its founding fathers' heroes, not even its founding mothers' heroes. Why? Because many of the mothers were completely outdone with the additional mothers that the founding fathers were having. And I will just uh, tap into the notion of Sally Hemings, where so many moms that existed outside the paradigm would have never uh, taken up the power of pen for it to be structured the way that it is. Now, I can't say that the counterparts, the mothers of the counterparts of the founding fathers, like the cultural counterparts, the European mother, is not the same as Big Mom. It's not the same. And this is not, like I said before, uh, strictly my subjective opinion. Observe during your moments of research and development. Tap into who's actually telling the story. American holidays and seasonal celebratory energies are surrounded around the heroes of those that cultivated the society, whether historical or contemporary. And it all involves intent. The intention to worship your heroes and heroines. The intention to keep alive the memories of those you are in gratitude and pay homage to, so that they may be remembered, so that they may become timeless. Their memory transcends them immortal. It may only stay alive inside the heart of memory. And so, quite a bit of what it is that we celebrate, when I say we, I am talking about my mahogany influenced base people, those that identify with the melanated essence of existence. And I say identify because you energize what it is that you identify and believe in, regardless of your physical ramifications. And socially, many of those that identify with the mahogany powers of, and I think I've mentioned this in several other recordings, where the wood of certain trees were deemed powerful and were associated with certain powering characteristics. Hollywood just didn't pick the wood of the holly tree for nothing. There were magical components by which they lived by, and so by them fueling it with their time and attention, gave it these superhuman powers of manifestation. The mahogany tree as well, but the folks that identified and would infuse the powers of the mahogany, the wood of the mahogany tree, became lost in translation and slowly but surely were manipulated out of their utilization of the pen, of their powers of the pen. They dropped the baton when it came time for them to take hold of the opportunities for them to tell their stories, for them to tap into this powerful thing called narrative, to become the narrator, to become the narrator, to yield the power to give your side, to give your version, to express what it is by which your head and heart feels and sees things, comprehends things. So, with all of that said, I have taken up the commitment at the brink of 2020 to begin rearranging, reforming my intentions by which I celebrate and acknowledge. And I often have to lend reminder because it's fairly new, for one, but two is because most often we will lean more to what is traditional, or lean more to what is considered common sense, inside of air quotes, common sense. And most often, the more trendy, traditional, common sensed notions are that of mainstream and the powers that be with regards to social constructs, the conditionings of being social within a confined I digress. I could feel it. I could feel the momentum about to build into a rant, and so I'm not. I'm going to keep it calm and short for this one. Just to say that with the rearranging of my intention to celebrate, I do not acknowledge February 14th as Valentine's Day. Definitely not with its Saint Valentine's Roman, Greek and Roman, or mainly Roman infusions, because I know pre this era, the energies of Aquarius and the tapping into the archetypal characteristics of Uranus is what was leading those that are linked to people like me. And so it means something totally different, especially now that we are engaging the influence inside the age of Aquarius. It means something totally different. So my celebratory nature comes in um, still acknowledging um, love, but on a more elite level, on a more unconditional level. For some time now, I have been a scholar of that which is called power couples. And I've done countless rounds of observation and study, um, mainly because I'm a natural student of human behavior. Way before I even began to pursue a degree in psychology, I was attuned to the way certain people did or did not, or said not. Always a people watcher, even to um, the detriment of having my cycles of people pleasing. And that tapped in, it literally taps into um, some of the major components of my birth chart. So it's a natural attraction for me. Almost to the point where my 20 years as a cosmetologist allow me the real live data of human behavior. I would often say, I did not meet the incredible variety of people over my career just because I was a great hairstylist. I was a conversationalist and very, very intrigued with their mental and emotional mechanisms. I'm always in tune for someone to explain to me why they did or did not do something. Naturally in tune, meaning captivated. Those in-depth quality of conversations always get my undivided attention. I am always intrigued. And this has been since childhood. And only, I want to say, in the last 5 years have I been able to really give language to that I was naturally attracted to. For a long time, it was beyond my comprehension of what was actually pulling and tugging on me. And I mean the entire spectrum, from what would be considered nobility to complete wretchedness, and everything in between. I think my most prized possessions have unfolded in the midst of me even trying to understand myself, analyze myself, ask myself those intriguing questions that would reveal why I am in tuned or not in tuned, or what it is that I would be engaged in that would build up my confidence versus break my confidence down, and how it ebbs and flows in conjunction with certain arrivals and presence of planetary involvement or the lack thereof. Power couples are an amazing entity, especially when two individuals show up in a consistency of wholeness. I view wholeness as seasonal as the calendar year. There are moments where, and wholeness doesn't mean that you're 100% in every category of your existence. That ebbs and flows as well. But your identity as a unique human individual does not suffer at the base of being co-joined with another. And to me, those are the real power couples. Those are the ones that tickle my fancy and hold my attention. And so usually when I come across a power couple, especially on social media, I try my due diligence to give them words of encouragement or to express my delight in their union in some kind of shape, form, or fashion. Most often because people will take compliments the wrong way, I try to cultivate in a way that doesn't make it seem like I am, like, I don't know, like, yeah, I try to minimize the fanfare. Because the moment I come into knowledge of the union, I instantly become happy. Now that I have yet to be able to truly be able to explain. But I am in love with those who are genuinely in love, especially if they powering some type of business adventure or some type of beyond life quest, or yeah, those that really like have each other's, not necessarily each other's back, but I mean each other's back, front, side to side, head to toe. It truly is a phenomenon. Even more so, those that are in union, that are working to break curses, and those that are working to study, to become more finer in tune with their ancient entities, and those that research, develop, and investigate together, where their conversations are mutual. I've been studying the storyline of, and oh my goodness, shucks, man, the Medici family. And I'm just gonna real quick pull this up to make sure. So, Lorenzo Medici, and this is in the um, antiquated 1465. So, it's still a Roman storyline, but it's at the beginning. This is right at the brink of them becoming a historical family. And usually, when I approach story as a scholar, I leave all of my preconceived notions at the door, regardless of um, how many other couples I have already studied or how many other stories I have observed and analyzed. I like to approach the story with a clean canvas. And even though Lorenzo had an arranged marriage, meaning he did not know his wife when they got married, he had only met her once, and his mother arranged it. And folks that look like me did not do matrimony the same way the Europeans, the Greeks, the Romans. They didn't do marriage the same way. The Medicis on most levels did not marry for love. They married for the co-joining of power and affluence and nobility. So you wasn't really sure who you were going to get because you were not privileged or privy to court them first. They didn't hang out and go to bowling alley and go get dinner and, stay on the phone for hours. They didn't have that type of time nor privilege access to one another. They married to blend power, to accumulate power or access to power. Lorenzo lucked up, and this is according to his words within the storyline. And I took a liking almost instantly to his wife. And it wasn't that she was mild-mannered in the sense that she was weak and only did what she was told. But she was mild-mannered in the essence of respect for what it is that his family stood for and the moves that Lorenzo had to make in honor of the progressive nature that his family had, the banner of what his family stood for. And even when she married him, he had already had a lover. And when she married into the family, she completely left her hometown, went and took up residence in the family home with the Medicis. And in the beginning, she was hurt. She was very hurt about this love affair because she literally exchanged words with the mistress. And the mistress pretty much said in so many words, if you take him from my bed, it is not going to make him, it's not going to get him closer to your bed. Like they was just wretched in those days. But understanding it was a business arrangement for the most part. But what made it so special is that Lorenzo was not a jerk. And his wife, his new bride, understood that. And so her respect for him never wilted. And she went and expressed to him how she felt about the marriage and that she had spoken to the mistress. And so as time goes on within the storyline, he realizes that she literally is Team Medici. Like she understood her position when she became his wife. And so he himself knew that to continue this affair with the mistress was only going to deteriorate the union that they had, ultimately deteriorating the progressiveness of the Medici banner. And so they literally became a team. She became his number one fan, his number one cheerleader, and his adequate representative, meaning when he was absent, she spoke for the two of them. Her words were just as noble as if he was there speaking them himself. And the storyline could have totally went another way. She could have became vindictive. She could have became jealous and started doing all this wacky ass shit. He could have just totally dismissed the fact that she wasn't cool with it, continue his situation with old girl, which would, as I said, ultimately deteriorate the banner of the crest of the name by which they were unionized under. And I think that's one of the reasons why I am so drawn to power couples, because they literally exist in respectful reciprocity of the mission of the named banner. And with Lorenzo and his new bride, it wasn't about love initially. It was about respect. It was about, I honestly care about how you feel in this. And so that's how I am moving forward with my intentions to celebrate a day like this. I'm tapping out of the great debates concerning its origination and what it was initially used for, and if I celebrate it, then I am contributing to. Nah, I am in soul control, SOUL control of how I intend to celebrate any moment of my existence, whether it is calendar sanctioned, American sanctioned, ancient sanctioned, celestial sanctioned. And so I am putting forth the innovative intent to put my energy in sending out the affirmations and the infused celebration of those that genuinely love each other. Those that will take notice when one says, I'm not cool with this, the other says, let's sit down and unpack this. Whether I agree or disagree, let's sit down and unpack this. Why? Because me being in union with you doesn't mean that I am going to promote or endorse everything, but I am going to respect you enough to understand it. I'm going to respect you enough to at least let you know I understand it and I disagree. Or I understand it, I agree, now let's go get them. Or I understand it, but can we make this a cocktail in perception or paradigm? Can we take a little bit of the way I see it and a little bit of the way you see it and make it into a new the way we see it? And that's what power couples are wonderful for. It's not see it the way I see it and leave it like that. It's none of that bullshit. It's I don't, babe, I don't necessarily like see it like you see it. But come on, let's talk more about this. Or, man, us talking about this got my pride a bit rickety, but I'm going to stand firm and just understand that I am standing in tender transition. So let's not throw jabs. Let's lay out sentiment. Let's lay out contemplation. Let's lay out comprehension. And all after it's all laid on the table, let's pick and choose what would be worthy and valuable to us as a union. And what makes it so incredibly virtuous, these types of couples, these qualities of couple, is that it's only their um, insights that matter. They don't do the whole what so and so said, or I was talking to so and so and so and so. They don't bring all that shit in. No, it's this is how I feel, this is how you feel, this is how we feel. And so, yeah, so here's to the authentic, genuine power couples. Here's to the legacy builders. Here's to the quest mates. Just know that you have fans that applaud you and send out love and light for the betterment of your understanding together. And hopefully, as we begin to uh, continue progressing into 2020, that couples will take up their natural rights to write. They both will hold the pen together and tell their story. They will begin contributing narrative into the greater narrative so that they may become leading examples of what this thing literally looks like. Because I tell you this, I don't necessarily want to be the only one tapping in to such rich curriculum. So if you have a living example within your grasp, a living power couple example within your grasp, or you are a living member of the union yourself, contemplate the evolutionary efforts of writing your story together. Published pieces with husband and wife, both authoring the piece, in genuine commentary, both voices equally substantial in union. Meaning the narrative is going to reflect how one feels individually, and the narrative is going to reflect how you both feel collectively, and what that means, and what's being done, what has been done, what's aspiring, what's affirming. And so that's my take on the celebratory influence moving forward with regards to the infamous St. Valentine's Day. Because we are humans, which means we are creatures of habit. And only the true rebellious ones will tap into the efforts to break what has been socially normal. And they will begin to service the story, excuse me, as it's unfolding in its more innovative nature. They will not have to go according to the cookie cutter. The wild unknown is theirs to have. The power of the pen is theirs to have. The evolutionary feat of publishing one's own story, yeah, that's your rite of passage. It's magically, deliciously yours. And so with that, I thank you for hanging out with me. My semi rant and rave. And so our EQ therapeutic reform, our EQ elemental um, engagements, and EQ stands for emotional intelligence. So our emotionally intelligent reform has a lot to do with the new narratives that will now be contributing as the living examples, giving oneself the permission to just be and then tell about that, speak about that. There will be no more one narrative fits all. So I thank you kindly for joining me, and I wish you well.